For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On one afternoon in 2000, 33-year-old Karina Delgado, an ICU nurse and mother, made a roadside photo stop with her family in Philadelphia, near the Art Museum steps. They were on their way to meet relatives for dinner. They never arrived. Despite an extensive search, the Delgado family vanished without a trace. Their sedan, later found nearby, offered no clues to their disappearance. For 17 agonizing years, Karina's wider family lived with the crushing weight of unanswered questions and gnawing uncertainty. Then, in 2017, a discovery was made. Hidden deep within a storm drain, a corroded compact camera. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Karina Delgado and her family. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Karina Delgado, at 33, embodied dedication and care. As an ICU nurse, her days were spent amidst the demanding rhythms of life and death, a profession that required unwavering focus and compassion. Yet outside the hospital walls, she was first and foremost a mother, cherishing the quiet moments with her family. The year 2000 promised a new millennium, a time of optimism and anticipated change. For the Delgado family, a trip to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was a chance to create new memories, a simple excursion to a city rich with history and iconic landmarks. Their itinerary included a visit to the famed Art Museum, an architectural marvel whose front steps had been immortalized by a fictional boxer, drawing tourists from around the globe. The adjacent Eakins Oval, a vast open space designed for civic gatherings, completed the picturesque urban tableau. On that particular afternoon, the family paused at the base of the rocky steps, a quintessential photo opportunity. Laughter and the click of a camera likely filled the air, capturing a fleeting instance of pure, unadulterated family joy. It was a mundane, forgettable moment, yet it would become the last known activity of Karina Delgado and her children. Relatives in the city eagerly awaited their arrival for dinner, a simple family gathering that had been planned for weeks. As the hours passed, however, the Delgados did not appear. Initial calls went unanswered, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The expected delay turned into a prolonged absence, and the initial worry solidified into a cold, hard dread. The following morning, their sedan, a late-model family car, was discovered. It sat conspicuously, yet undisturbed, near the Eakins Oval, just a short distance from where they had last been seen. The vehicle had accumulated a series of overnight parking tickets, testament to its abandonment. There were no signs of forced entry, no shattered glass, no struggle evident within its interior. It was simply parked, as if its occupants had merely stepped away for a moment, never to return. The car offered no immediate clues, only amplifying the perplexing nature of the situation. Karina Delgado and her children had vanished, leaving behind only their vehicle, a silent witness to an inexplicable disappearance. The city, bustling with its everyday life, now held a chilling void where a family had once been. The relatives, their initial worry now curdled into outright panic, contacted authorities the moment the sun rose, filing a missing persons report for Karina Delgado and her children. The Philadelphia Police Department swiftly initiated protocols, dispatching officers to the Eakins Oval where the Delgado sedan had been found. The sight of the ticketed vehicle, a stark reminder of the family's abrupt cessation of movement, offered little comfort. Forensic technicians meticulously processed the car, searching for any anomaly, any sign of a struggle or forced entry, but the sedan remained stubbornly silent. Its doors were locked, the interior undisturbed, presenting no shattered glass, no blood, no fingerprints beyond those expected of the family. The absence of a struggle was as perplexing as the absence of the family itself, deepening the mystery rather than clarifying it. Investigators fanned out, canvassing the immediate vicinity around the art museum and Eakins Oval. They interviewed anyone who might have been in the area during the critical hours, from street vendors to early morning joggers. Among those questioned was Alonzo Reed, a veteran museum guard whose shift overlapped with the time the Delgados would have been at the steps. Reed recalled seeing numerous families taking photos, a common sight at the iconic landmark, but nothing specifically stood out about the Delgado family or their vehicle. His observations, while thorough, yielded no unique insights, no strange cars, no suspicious individuals, no unusual sounds. The area, usually bustling, seemed to have swallowed the family whole without leaving a trace. The initial investigation quickly hit a wall. There was no crime scene, no witnesses to an abduction, no ransom demands, no suicide note, no evidence of an accident. It was as if Karina Delgado and her children had simply evaporated into the urban landscape. Detectives returned to the sedan, examining it again, hoping to find something they had missed, but it continued to offer only its mute, abandoned presence. The lack of any tangible lead, any thread to pull, began to gnaw at the investigative team. The case, almost from its inception, defied easy categorization, transforming from a missing persons report into a baffling enigma that left seasoned officers frustrated and without direction. The city's bustling life continued around the void, indifferent to the profound mystery that had suddenly manifested at its very heart. The initial fervor of the investigation, fueled by the shock of a family's inexplicable disappearance, gradually began to wane as every lead, every potential avenue, led to a dead end. Forensic analysis of the Delgado sedan, meticulously conducted and re-examined, yielded no new insights. The car, a silent testament to their last known movements, offered no hidden compartments, no clandestine messages, no trace of a struggle that might indicate foul play. Officers revisited businesses, re-interviewed the few individuals who had been in the vicinity, and scoured telephone records and bank statements. But Karina Delgado and her children had left no digital or paper trail to follow. Without a body, a crime scene, or even a credible witness, the case lacked the foundational elements required for progress. The absence of evidence was not evidence of absence, but rather an impenetrable wall of silence. For Karina Delgado's extended family, the passage of weeks into months was an agonizing descent into a purgatory of uncertainty. The initial hope that the family had simply gone off-grid, perhaps for a spontaneous trip, quickly dissolved under the weight of official reports and the relentless silence. Birthdays passed, then holidays, each marking another poignant absence, another year without answers. The inability to grieve, to hold a memorial, or even to comprehend the fate of their loved ones inflicted a profound and enduring anguish. They lived in a perpetual state of waiting, haunted by what-ifs and the chilling void left behind. In the public eye, the initial media storm surrounding the Rocky Steps disappearance slowly subsided. News cycles moved on, replaced by new tragedies and unfolding events. Posters bearing Karina's face and those of her children, once plastered across Philadelphia, faded and peeled, eventually torn down or forgotten. The once prominent appeals for information, once broadcast across local news channels, became infrequent, then ceased altogether. The case, once a source of civic concern and morbid fascination, quietly slipped into the city's cold files, relegated to the growing list of unsolved mysteries. 17 years passed. The year 2000 became a distant memory, a different millennium. Children who were infants when the Delgados vanished were now adults. Investigators who had worked the initial case had retired or moved on. The case file, once active and frequently reviewed, gathered dust in a records room, a stark reminder of a family swallowed by an urban landscape. The once vibrant hope among the police department and the Delgado family had long since dimmed, replaced by a quiet, almost resigned acceptance. The prevailing belief was that the truth of Karina Delgado and her children's disappearance would likely never be uncovered, destined to remain one of Philadelphia's most haunting and baffling unsolved cases. 17 years after Karina Delgado and her children vanished, the city of Philadelphia continued its relentless cycle of renewal and decay. For Jill Kao, a foreman with the streets department, this often meant routine maintenance in the sprawling urban heart. It was a crisp autumn morning, a Tuesday in 2017, when her crew was assigned to clear debris from storm drains around the Eakins Oval, an area that had seen countless parades and public events since the turn of the millennium. The work was mundane, involving the removal of leaves, plastic bottles, and whatever else the urban current swept into the subterranean network. Jill, overseeing her team, noticed a particularly stubborn blockage in a drain near the western edge of the oval, not far from the art museum steps. With a long-handled hook, she probed the obstruction, expecting to dislodge a clump of matted leaves or a discarded garment. Instead, her tools snagged on something rigid, something metallic. After several attempts, she managed to pull the object free, bringing it into the pale morning light. It was a compact digital camera, small enough to fit in a pocket, but now utterly transformed by its long interment. Its plastic casing was brittle and discolored, encrusted with years of sediment and corrosion. The lens was foggy, the screen a blank, opaque rectangle. It was an artifact, a relic of a bygone era, its technology obsolete, yet its presence in such a place was profoundly unsettling. Jill, a longtime Philadelphia resident, possessed a keen memory for local lore and unsolved mysteries. The location of her find, so close to where the Delgado family's sedan had been abandoned 17 years prior, immediately triggered a flicker of recognition. She knew the story of the family who had vanished from the rocky steps. The camera, despite its dilapidated state, felt significant. She contacted her supervisor, who in turn alerted the Philadelphia Police Department. Within hours, detectives from the cold case unit arrived, their initial skepticism giving way to a cautious but palpable excitement. The discovery sent a ripple of renewed hope through the department, particularly among the few remaining officers who remembered the frustrating initial investigation. This was a tangible piece of evidence, retrieved from the very ground where the mystery began, after nearly 2 decades of silence. It was a lifeline thrown into a sea of forgotten despair. The corroded camera, however, presented an immediate and formidable challenge. Its internal components, particularly the memory card that held the key to its contents, had been exposed to water and grime for 17 years. The delicate task of data recovery would be an undertaking requiring extreme care and specialized forensic expertise, with no guarantee of success. The chance of retrieving any usable information from the relic was slim, yet it was the only lead they had. The discovery of the camera, a relic from a forgotten past, shattered the 17-year silence surrounding the Delgado disappearance. What had been a cold case, relegated to dusty files and fading memories, was now officially reopened. The Philadelphia Police Department, galvanized by this tangible link to the past, immediately dedicated a new team of investigators to the case, some of whom had not even been on the force when Karina Delgado and her children vanished. The corroded compact camera, carefully secured as evidence, became the focal point of a renewed and urgent inquiry. It was immediately transported to a specialized forensic laboratory, where experts faced the delicate and uncertain task of data recovery. The memory card, presumed to be inside, had endured 17 years of moisture, temperature fluctuations, and chemical degradation within the storm drain. Traditional methods of data extraction were deemed too risky. Any misstep could destroy the fragile data permanently. Forensic specialists employed an array of cutting-edge, non-invasive techniques, working in a sterile environment under microscopic magnification. This involved careful chemical cleaning, controlled drying processes, and the use of specialized hardware interfaces designed to bypass heavily corrupted sectors. Each step was painstakingly slow, a methodical race against time and the irreversible effects of decay. The atmosphere in the lab was charged with a palpable sense of anticipation and immense pressure. For nearly 2 decades, the Delgado case had been a symbol of an unsolved mystery, a haunting question mark in the city's history. Now, this single, damaged piece of technology held the potential to unlock answers that had eluded countless hours of investigation. The investigators, along with Karina Delgado's surviving family, waited with bated breath, understanding that success was far from guaranteed. The odds of salvaging any meaningful information from the memory card were slim, yet this was their only lead, their last hope. Days of meticulous work culminated in a breakthrough. With a combination of advanced algorithms and sheer perseverance, the forensic team managed to extract a series of images from the memory card. Many were corrupted, some were mere fragments, and others were severely blurred or discolored by the long interment. Yet critically, a significant number of photographs, though imperfect, were discernible. It was a pivotal moment, a flicker of light piercing through 17 years of darkness. The images, once lost to the depths of an urban drain, now offered a potential window into the Delgado family's final known moments. The immediate task for the investigative team was to scrutinize every pixel, every shadow, every faint detail within these resurrected photographs, searching for any discernible features, locations, or clues that could finally explain the family's inexplicable vanishing act. The recovered photographs, salvaged from the corroded memory card, became the singular focus of the investigative team. Each image, whether blurred or discolored, was meticulously analyzed, projected onto large screens, and enhanced with digital tools. Days turned into nights as detectives pored over the pixels, searching for any anomaly, any detail that could break the 17-year silence. The painstaking process involved cross-referencing known landmarks, examining reflections, and even attempting to identify clothing or objects. It was in one of the more severely degraded images, a seemingly innocuous snapshot taken from inside the Delgado family's vehicle, that a critical detail finally emerged. Barely discernible in the distorted reflection of the car's rearview mirror, a small, oblong piece of paper could be seen. Though highly pixelated, forensic imaging specialists were able to enhance the fragment just enough to identify it. A bus transfer, issued by SEPTA, the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority. This seemingly minor detail proved to be a pivotal breakthrough. The presence of a bus transfer, typically issued for specific routes and at particular times, suggested the family had not followed their intended path. It pointed to an unexpected detour, a deviation from the main thoroughfares around the art museum. The challenge was to ascertain which route this transfer belonged to and why the Delgados would have possessed it. This required a deep dive into the historical records of SEPTA, a task that fell to individuals like Rafi Hakim, a veteran dispatcher with an encyclopedic knowledge of the city's transit network. Hakim, working with investigators, painstakingly combed through archived route schedules, temporary detours, and operational logs from the year 2000, specifically focusing on the area around the Eakins Oval during the period of the disappearance. The collaboration between law enforcement and SEPTA proved invaluable. By overlaying the historical bus detour maps with records of civic events and festival closures that occurred around the art museum during that fateful time, a chilling pattern began to emerge. The Eakins Oval, often a site for large public gatherings, frequently necessitated temporary traffic rerouting. Investigators discovered that on the day Karina Delgado and her family vanished, a specific temporary service lane had been active due to a festival setup. This lane, designed for authorized vehicles and often poorly marked, would have diverted traffic from the main road. Crucially, this particular service lane, unfamiliar to most drivers, funneled directly into a rarely used dead-end underpass located beneath a section of the Eakins Oval, hidden from public view. The revelation was stark and profoundly unsettling. The mechanism of their disappearance, an urban trap born of temporary infrastructure and navigational confusion, had finally been uncovered. The family had not been abducted, but inadvertently funneled into an unseen cul-de-sac, vanishing from the city's bustling thoroughfares into an urban abyss. The chilling truth of Karina Delgado and her children's disappearance, long shrouded in mystery, finally emerged from the depths of Philadelphia's urban landscape. The family, unknowingly caught in a confluence of temporary traffic changes and an unfamiliar detour, had been funneled directly into a dead-end underpass bend. The Eakins Oval. This service lane, temporarily active for a festival setup and likely poorly marked, became an unforeseen trap. Once inside the underpass, hidden from the main thoroughfares and public sight, they had effectively vanished. It was not an abduction, nor a deliberate flight, but a tragic accident of navigation. A family swallowed by an obscure cul-de-sac in the heart of a bustling city. This revelation, painstakingly pieced together from a corroded memory card and forgotten municipal records, finally brought a form of closure to a case that had haunted the city for 17 years. The how of their vanishing was no longer a baffling enigma, but a grim, comprehensible sequence of events. While the ultimate fate of Karina Delgado and her children remained a somber note, the mechanism of their disappearance provided a definitive answer to the long-standing question, shifting the narrative from endless speculation to tragic understanding. The resolution was a testament to the unexpected paths truth can take. Museum guard Alonzo Reed, whose initial observations had seemed unremarkable, provided a baseline of normalcy that, in retrospect, reinforced the idea of an unseen, subtle misdirection rather than a violent struggle. Streets Department. Foreman Jill Kao, going about her routine duties, became the unlikely catalyst, her discovery of the forgotten camera the singular event that reopened the cold case. And SEPTA dispatcher Rafi Hakim, with his meticulous knowledge of historical transit data, became indispensable in mapping the forgotten detours that led to the family's final, unwitting journey. Each played a crucial, if often indirect, role in illuminating the path to the truth. For Karina Delgado's extended family, the news brought a complex mix of sorrow and relief. The anguish of not knowing, of living in a perpetual state of uncertainty, had been a heavier burden than the confirmation of a tragic end. The understanding of how their loved ones vanished, though heartbreaking, offered a measure of peace, allowing for a form of grieving that had been impossible for nearly 2 decades. The case served as a stark reminder of the unexpected hazards hidden within the urban fabric, the critical importance of persistent investigation, and the profound impact a single, long-lost clue can have, bridging 17 years of silence to finally unravel a decades-old mystery.